Commander Sung-Ho Park stood before the 5 council members, their faces cold under the harsh lights of Earth Central Command. His dark uniform, once decorated with medals of honor, now felt heavy on his shoulders. The chamber was silent except for the occasional whisper among officials gathered to witness his judgment. "Commander Park, you were ordered to secure the resources of Proxima B3 by any means necessary," said Counselor Taewon Kim, his former mentor whose silver hair gleamed under the lights. "Instead, you chose to spare the native species, costing Earth-critical minerals needed for our expansion program." Sung-Ho's face remained calm despite the storm inside him. The natives showed signs of advanced intelligence. Harvesting their world would have been genocide. A murmur swept through the chamber. Counselor Sojin Bae, an older woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward. "Your job was not to make moral judgments, Commander. Your job was to follow orders, even unlawful ones," Sung-Ho asked quietly. He gestured to the evidence screen beside him. "The documents I've submitted prove the Council has been hiding reports of intelligent life to justify resource extraction." The head counselor, Ho-Jun Lee, tapped his screen, making Sung-Ho's evidence disappear from all displays. "These alleged documents will be reviewed privately. For now, we address your insubordination." Sung-Ho knew then that his fate was sealed. The truth would be buried, just like the countless civilizations Earth had deemed less important than its growing hunger for resources. The verdict came swiftly. Stripped of rank, permanent exile aboard the distant star, an old survey vessel barely capable of supporting life. Launch scheduled for dawn. Guards escorted him from the chamber through back corridors to avoid the press. As they approached the holding cells, a young officer rushed toward them. "Commander, please, just one moment." The guards moved to block her, but Sung-Ho recognized her. "Ji-Woo Lee, my engineering specialist." "Sir, they're not telling the whole story," she said quickly before the guards pushed her back. "The stellar anomalies, they're connected to the harvesting." She slipped something into his hand before being pulled away. That night in his cell, Sung-Ho examined what Ji-Woo had given him. A small data chip. With no way to read it, he hid it in the lining of his boot. Dawn came too soon. Sung-Ho was marched to the launching bay where the distant star waited, a relic from 30 years ago. Its hull showed patches of repairs, barely enough to keep it space-worthy. "Your supplies will last 6 months," said the officer overseeing his departure. "After that, you're on your own." Sung-Ho looked around one last time at Earth's gleaming spaceport. "No chance to say goodbye to my family?" "Traitors forfeit such privileges," the officer replied coldly. Inside the ship, Sung-Ho found barely functioning systems and stale air. The launch was rough, the old engines protesting as the vessel was forced into orbit. He watched through a scratched viewport as Earth grew smaller, its blues and greens fading to a distant point. Once clear of Earth's monitoring range, Sung-Ho began inspecting the ship more thoroughly. In the cargo hold, he found supplies less than promised and something unexpected. "You took your time," said Ji-Woo Lee, emerging from behind a storage container. Her uniform was gone, replaced by plain clothes. Sung-Ho stared in shock. "What are you doing here?" "Becoming a traitor too, apparently." She smiled despite the seriousness of her situation. "I couldn't let you face this alone, not when I know what they're hiding." "You've thrown your life away," Sung-Ho said, shaking. "His head, maybe. Or maybe we're the only ones who can save what's left." Ji-Woo pulled out a portable reader. "Let's see what's on that chip." The data revealed disturbing patterns. Stellar instabilities appearing precisely where Earth had conducted its most aggressive resource extractions. Strange energy signatures. Warnings ignored. "The galaxy is reacting to what we're doing," Ji-Woo explained. "Some kind of defense mechanism. The Council knows but won't stop. They're just trying to grab what they can before it's too late." Sung-Ho looked at the star charts, the spreading pattern of collapse. "How long?" 20 years. Maybe 30 before it reaches Earth's sector. Less for the outer colonies. They sat in silence as the old ship drifted farther from everything they had known. Finally, Sung-Ho stood up. "We need to make this ship last longer than 6 months," he said, examining the control systems. And find others who might listen. Ji-woo nodded, already calculating what they would need. Where do we go? Sung-ho looked at the star map, pointing to a cluster of mining outposts. Here, where people have reasons to distrust Earth's official story. As the distant star changed course, leaving the familiar paths of Earth ships, Sung-ho felt something unexpected. Freedom. For the first time in his military career, his actions would be guided only by truth and conscience. They meant this ship to be our prison, Ji-woo said, working to improve the life support systems. Then we'll turn it into something else, Sung-ho replied. A new beginning. 20 years changed everything. The old survey vessel that had once been Sung-ho's prison now barely resembled its original form. New hull plating covered the exterior. Engines salvaged from abandoned ships hummed with renewed power, and the name New Dawn was painted proudly across its side. Sung-ho stood on the bridge, his once black hair now streaked with gray. Lines marked his face, but his eyes remained sharp as he studied the star charts displayed before him. The map showed areas of stable space in blue, danger zones in red, and the spreading pattern of stellar collapse in angry purple. "Captain, incoming transmission," called out Min-ho, a young man who had joined their crew 3 years ago after they rescued his mining colony. Sung-ho nodded. "Put it through." The screen flickered to life, showing the tired face of Do-hyun, leader of Helios colony. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. "Captain Park, we need your help," he said without greeting. "Earth has cut all supply lines without warning. 3 neighboring systems have gone dark as the stellar deterioration spreads faster than predicted." "How many people?" Sung-ho asked, already calculating space and resources. 8,000. We have 3 months of supplies left, maybe less. Ji-woo entered the bridge, now his trusted second in command. She had grown stronger over the years, her quiet determination a cornerstone of their survival. "We can take 500 at most," she said after hearing the situation. "But we know others who might help." Sung-ho nodded. "We'll arrive in 10 days. Prepare your most vulnerable people first." After the transmission ended, he turned to his crew. "Plot the safest route to Helios and send word to our network. We need more ships." The New Dawn had become known throughout the outer systems as a ship that helped those abandoned by Earth. Its crew of 12, all outcasts and refugees, had saved thousands over the years, building a web of allies across the frontier worlds. 8 days later, they approached Helios Colony, a mining outpost built into a large asteroid. Before they could dock, Ji-woo detected something unusual. Energy readings near the colony's research station, she reported. Not human tech. Sung-ho changed their course. "Let's check it first." The station floated silent and dark, seemingly abandoned months ago when the colony consolidated resources. Sung-ho led a small team inside, their lights cutting through the dusty air. "Captain, down here," called Hyun-woo, their engineer, from a sealed lower chamber. The team gathered around a strange discovery, a room untouched by the evacuation, containing technology clearly not of human origin. Crystalline structures pulsed with soft blue light, responding to their presence. "It's old," Ji-woo whispered, studying the alien console. "And it wasn't found here. Someone brought it from deeper space." Hyun-woo connected his devices to the strange technology. "It's processing stellar data, mapping the collapse patterns." "Can you make it work?" Sung-ho asked. "I think it's already working," Ji-woo replied, pointing to projections forming above the crystal structure. "It's showing safe passages through regions we thought were impassable." Hours later, back on the New Dawn, the colony leader Do-hyun stared at the alien device they had carefully transported aboard. "Earth researchers found it 2 years ago," he admitted. "They shipped it here for quiet study, then abandoned it when they evacuated their personnel." "Did they learn how to use it?" asked Sung-ho. Do-hyun shook his head. "They were taking orders from someone high in Earth Command. All very secret." That night, while the crew slept and the ship hummed quietly in space, Sung-ho sat alone with the alien navigation system. Its soft light cast strange shadows across his weathered face as he thought of the 20 years since his exile. He had left Earth a disgraced commander. Now he commanded not by rank, but by the trust of those who had nowhere else to turn. The frontier had become home, a harsh one, but one where truth mattered more than politics. Jiwoo found him there at dawn, ship time. "You should sleep," she said, sitting beside him. "I was thinking about Earth," he replied. "They know about the collapse. They've known for years. Yet they keep harvesting resources, making it worse," Jiwoo added. "And abandoning the outer colonies." Sung-ho gestured to the alien device. "This could save thousands, show us safe routes through the deteriorating sectors." "So what's our next move?" Jiwoo asked. Before he could answer, Minho called over the ship's comm. "Captain, 6 ships just arrived. They're responding to our call for help with Helios evacuation." Sung-ho smiled slightly, the first real smile in days. "Our next move is what we've always done. Save who we can. Build something better." As he walked to the bridge, the alien device pulsed brighter, as if responding to his resolve. The New Dawn's engines warmed as they prepared to guide a makeshift fleet through increasingly dangerous space, carrying hope for those Earth had deemed expendable. The grand meeting hall of Nexus Station buzzed with voices as representatives from 37 colonies gathered. Once a refueling depot, the station had been transformed into the heart of what many now called the Coalition, a network of worlds united by necessity and guided by Sung-ho Park. Sung-ho stood at the front of the hall, his tall frame commanding attention despite his simple clothes. Silver had claimed most of his once dark hair, but his eyes remained clear and determined. Beside him, Jiwoo operated the display controls, bringing up star maps showing the spreading pattern of galactic collapse. 3 years ago we were scattered survivors. Sung-ho began, his voice carrying across the quiet room. Today we are 37 worlds working together. Our supply chains reach across 12 sectors. Our warning systems give colonies time to evacuate before their stars destabilize. Young Mi, the fierce leader from Proxima Colony, stood up. Her people had been saved twice by Sung-ho's network of stable space corridors. "The modified alien navigation system has changed everything. 6 months ago my people faced certain death. Now we have a new home." Sung-ho nodded in acknowledgement. "But we face new challenges. The collapse is accelerating." Jiwoo stepped forward, adjusting the display to show a timeline. "Our projections indicate 5 years before the instability reaches Earth's solar system. When that happens, they will come for us, for our technology, our safe zones, our resources." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Many had bitter memories of being abandoned by Earth when their worlds were deemed too costly to save. "We should turn them away," called someone from the back, "like they turned us away." Sung-ho raised his hand for quiet. "We will not become what we fight against, but we must be prepared to defend what we've built." The Coalition Security Council met after the main assembly. 6 colony leaders joined Sung-ho and Jiwoo in a smaller room dominated by a tactical display. "We have 18 ships capable of defense," reported Taemin, their fleet coordinator. "Not enough against Earth's military if they come in force. But we have better knowledge of safe passages," added Jiwoo. "Earth's larger ships can't navigate the unstable zones we've mapped." Their strategy session lasted hours. When they emerged, they had a plan, not just for defense, but for continued survival regardless of Earth's actions. 3 months passed. The Coalition grew stronger, rescuing 3 more colonies from worlds with failing stars. The alien navigation technology, now better understood thanks to scientist Min Su's breakthroughs, allowed them to predict collapse patterns with greater accuracy. Then the warning came. 6 Earth battleships have entered Coalition space, announced the young operator at Nexus Station's monitoring post. They're following the main trade route toward us. Sung-ho was called from his quarters, where he had been reviewing supply distributions. He arrived at the command center as the first message from Earth came through. On screen appeared Commander Han Sol, his uniform crisp and decorated with medals Sung-ho once wore himself. "This is Commander Han Sol of Earth Central. Command, we are here to establish order in these territories and secure critical technologies for Earth's preservation." Sung-ho stepped into view of the transmission. Commander, these territories established their own governance when Earth abandoned them. We welcome discussion as equals, but not demands. Han Solo's expression hardened. Exile has made you forget. Your place, Park. You have 24 hours to surrender the alien navigation system and submit to Earth authority. When the transmission ended, Jiwoo turned to Sung Ho. They know about the technology. They've always known more than they admitted, Sung Ho replied. Prepare our defense plan. The next day, when Earth's battleships attempted to advance toward Nexus Station, they found themselves confronted not by direct opposition, but by something more effective: knowledge. Sung Ho's smaller but more agile fleet used their superior understanding of the deteriorating space conditions to outmaneuver the larger ships. Where Earth captains saw clear paths, Coalition pilots recognized dangerous energy fluctuations. 3 Earth ships were disabled after venturing into unstable zones that appeared safe on their outdated charts. From his command post, Sung Ho watched the tactical display with a heavy heart. He took no pleasure in fighting those who had once been his colleagues. Offer assistance to the disabled ships, he ordered. Show them who we really are. After the decisive defeat, Earth forces retreated to the edge of Coalition space. Commander Han Solo requested a meeting, arriving on a small shuttle with 2 advisors. You've won this round, Han Solo admitted in the Stark meeting room. But Earth will not be denied what it needs to survive. Survival doesn't require control, Sung Ho answered. It requires cooperation. Something Earth has forgotten. Before Han Solo could respond, Min Su burst into the room, his research tablet in hand. Captain Park, we've completed the analysis of the collapse patterns. Sung Ho nodded for him to continue. The collapse isn't natural, Min Su said, displaying his findings. These patterns suggest it was triggered deliberately, some kind of ancient defense mechanism against resource depletion. The Earth commander looked startled. That's classified information. So you knew, Sung Ho said quietly. You knew Earth's harvesting was causing this, and still you continued. Han Solo looked away. The decision wasn't mine. That evening, after the Earth representatives departed with a fragile truce established, Sung Ho stood at the viewport of Nexus Station. The stars beyond looked peaceful, giving no hint of the forces slowly tearing them apart. What now? Asked Jiwoo, joining him. Now we prepare, he replied. Earth will return, either as enemies or refugees when their star begins to fail. Either way, the Coalition must be ready. The message from Earth arrived during Sung Ho's morning meeting with the Coalition Council. He sat at the circular table with representatives from their strongest worlds when Min Ho interrupted with urgency in his voice. Captain, priority transmission from Earth Central Command, Min Ho said, his young face serious. The council members exchanged glances. 5 years had passed since Earth's failed attempt to seize Coalition technology. 5 years during which the galactic collapse had accelerated beyond even their worst predictions. Put it through, Sung Ho said, his voice calm despite the tension. In the room. The large screen flickered to life, showing the worn face of Counselor Jin Ho Seo. Unlike the military commanders who had threatened them before, Jin Ho was a civilian leader, one of Earth's few politicians who had once spoken against the aggressive resource harvesting. Captain Park, Jin Ho began, using Sung Ho's adopted title rather than his old military rank. I speak on behalf of Earth's Emergency Council. We request immediate talks regarding mutual aid. Jiwoo, now Sung Ho's most trusted advisor, leaned forward. Mutual aid? 3 months ago, your ships fired on our supply vessels. Jin Ho's shoulders slumped slightly. The military government has been dissolved. Half our colony worlds have gone dark. The stellar collapse will reach our system within months. After the transmission ended, the Coalition Council debated for hours. Many opposed helping Earth after years of hostility. Others argued that innocent civilians shouldn't suffer for their leaders' mistakes. Sung Ho listened to all sides before speaking. We go, he said simply. Not for their government, but for the people who had no voice in those decisions. 3 weeks later, Sung Ho stood in Earth's Grand Council chamber for the first time since his exile 25 years earlier. The room seemed smaller than he remembered. The gleaming marble and ornate decorations now appeared faded and worn. Much like Earth itself, Jin-ho greeted him personally along with 5 other counselors. Among them, Sung-ho recognized an aged Taewon Kim, his former mentor who had pronounced his exile sentence so many years ago. "You ask for our help now?" Sung-ho said, looking directly at Taewon. "We ask for humanity's survival," replied Jin-ho. "Our scientists confirm what yours discovered years ago. The collapse was triggered by our own actions. The ancient defense system activated when we reached a critical threshold of resource extraction." Ji-woo presented the coalition's assessment. Earth's star will become unstable within 4 months, total collapse within 6. "How many can you save?" asked Counselor Mi Rae-yoon, a woman Sung-ho didn't recognize. "With our current fleet capacity, perhaps 30% of Earth's population," Ji-woo answered honestly. "Selection must be based on skills diversity, not wealth or status." The negotiations lasted days. Sung-ho and his team worked tirelessly to establish evacuation protocols. While Earth's leaders struggled to accept the limitations, the coalition could not save everyone. A brutal truth that Earth's privileged had never faced before. On the 3rd night, while reviewing evacuation zones in a temporary office, Sung-ho was surprised by a visitor, Taewon Kim, walking slowly, with the aid of a cane. "May I speak with you, Captain?" the old man asked, his voice raspy with age. Sung-ho nodded, offering a chair. "You've won in the end," Taewon said after sitting heavily. "From exile to savior of humanity, this was never about winning," Sung-ho replied. "Only survival." He studied his former mentor, now diminished by age and circumstance. "Did you know about the harvesting causing the collapse?" Taewon looked away. "There were theories, but the economy needed resources. Politicians need votes. It was easier to ignore the warnings." Later that night, Ji-woo found Sung-ho on the balcony of their assigned quarters, looking out at Earth's city lights. "You're troubled," she observed. "This was home once," he said quietly. "I never thought I'd see it again, especially not like this." Ji-woo touched his arm gently. "We're doing all we can." "It won't be enough," he replied. His words proved prophetic the next morning when coalition security detected unusual movement among Earth's remaining military vessels. Monitoring systems showed troops mobilizing near the spaceports where coalition ships were preparing evacuation procedures. "They're planning to seize our ships," Ji-woo reported urgently. "Override our selection protocols." "How much time do we have?" Sung-ho asked. "Hours at most." Sung-ho made the hardest decision of his life. "Begin emergency launch procedures. Take everyone already processed and as many more as we can safely board." Chaos erupted as coalition crews rushed to complete preparations while Earth forces moved to block their departure. In the confusion, Jin-ho and several other sympathetic counselors arrived with groups of civilians, teachers, doctors, engineers, and families who had been waiting for official evacuation. "They're sacrificing the many to save the privileged few," Jin-ho explained breathlessly. "I couldn't be part of that." As coalition ships broke Earth orbit under fire from military vessels, Sung-ho watched through the viewscreen as his planet grew smaller. They had managed to evacuate just 15% of what they'd planned, mostly ordinary citizens, with only a handful of Earth's former leaders. "We tried," Ji-woo said, standing beside him on the bridge. Sung-ho nodded. "Some lessons come too late." As the fleet jumped to safety, Earth's desperate signals faded behind them. Ahead lay an uncertain future, but one they would face together, the remnants of a civilization given one final chance. Sung-ho stood at the large viewing window on the command ship, watching stars drift past. His hair had turned completely white, over the 10 years since Earth's fall. The observation deck offered the best view of what they now called the remnant fleet, over 300 vessels of various sizes, carrying the last organized human civilization through the narrowing corridors of stable space. Behind him, the door slid open. Ji-woo entered, her steps slower than in their youth but her mind as sharp as ever. A data tablet rested in her hands, the screen glowing with the day's reports. "The council is ready," she said simply. Sung-ho nodded. taking a final moment to observe the fleet. Each light represented thousands of lives. Earth refugees mixed with colonists from dozens of worlds. Nearly 2 million souls preserved from a civilization that once spanned hundreds of planets. "How is the Prosperity doing?" he asked, referring to one of their agricultural ships. "The new crop rotation is working better than expected," Jiwoo replied. "Food production up 12%. They walked together through corridors that hummed with activity. Children born on the fleet ran past, laughing as they played games in the artificial gravity. Sung-ho smiled slightly at the sound. These children had never known Earth or any planet. The fleet was their only home. The council chamber was actually a repurposed cargo hold, modified years ago to serve as their central meeting place. 12 people waited around the circular table, representatives from the fleet's major sections. Sung-ho had refused any grand title despite leading what they now called the Remnant. He preferred simply Captain, or from friends just Sung-ho. Young Captain Jaemin rose as they entered. Though only 32, he had proven himself repeatedly in scouting missions through dangerous regions. His ship, the Pathfinder, had mapped many of the safe routes they now followed. "The stellar mapping is complete," Jaemin announced once the meeting began. "The ancient technology confirms what our forward scouts reported. Beyond the Perseus arm lies a cluster of stable systems. They show no signs of the collapse effect." Holographic maps filled the center of the table, showing their current position and the proposed destination. A journey of 3 months through increasingly difficult space. "Are we certain these systems will remain stable?" asked So-jin, who represented the civilian population. "The alien technology indicates they exist in a protected zone," Jiwoo explained. "Whatever triggered the galactic defense mechanism exempted these regions." Discussion continued for hours, weighing risks against the dwindling alternatives. The stable corridors they traveled were narrowing month by month. Eventually, there would be nowhere left to go. "We have sufficient resources for the journey," concluded Minsu, now the fleet's chief scientist. "If we leave within 2 weeks, we can make it before the next corridor collapse." Later that evening, Sung-ho sat in his simple quarters reviewing the transition documents. He had announced months ago that his leadership would end once they reached their destination. A new council, with Jiwoo as senior advisor, would guide humanity's fresh start. A knock at his door revealed Jiwoo with a small container of food. "You missed dinner again," she said, setting it down on his desk. "Thank you." He gestured to the empty chair. "Join me?" They ate in comfortable silence for a while, two old friends who had shared decades of struggle and triumph. "No regrets?" Jiwoo finally asked, studying his face. "Many," Sung-ho admitted with a small smile. "But not about the path we chose." "The fleet believes in you," she said. "They always have." "They believe in themselves now," he corrected. "That's what matters." 3 months later, the fleet made its final jump through space. On the bridge of the command ship, tension filled the air as they waited for sensors to confirm their position. Had they truly found safety at last? The viewing screen flickered to life, showing a breathtaking vista of planets orbiting a stable yellow star. Scans revealed breathable atmospheres, water, vegetation. Cheers erupted across all ship channels. "We made it," whispered Jiwoo, standing at Sung-ho's side. Sung-ho smiled, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. Now the real work begins. Settlement proceeded carefully. The first planet they named New Beginning had landmasses rich with life but no intelligent species. A blessing after decades of guilt over what human expansion had once cost other beings. 6 months into the settlement process, Sung-ho received a message from the medical center. A young woman named So-young had just given birth to the first child born on their new world. When he arrived, she was sitting up in bed, cradling a tiny bundle. "Would you like to hold him?" she asked. Carefully, Sung-ho took the sleeping infant, marveling at how small and perfect he was. A new human who would never know exile or the desperation of their long journey. "His name is Min-ho," the mother told him. It means brilliant protector. Hello, Minho, Sung-ho whispered. Your journey begins better than ours ended. That evening, Sung-ho walked alone on the surface of their new home. The unfamiliar sun was setting, painting the sky in colors he'd almost forgotten planets could display. A gentle breeze carried the scent of alien but pleasant vegetation. Young settlers worked nearby, building homes and planning farms. They called to him respectfully as he passed, but no one interrupted his thoughts. They understood that the old captain needed this moment. Sung-ho Park, once Earth's decorated commander, then exile, reluctant leader, and now simply an old man, watched the first stars appear in the sky of their new world. He thought of Earth, now likely dark and lifeless, and all those they couldn't save. But here, under strange stars, humanity had found not just survival, but a chance to begin again, to build something better than what came before. We remembered the lesson this time, he said softly to the evening air. This time we'll do better. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.